and my watch says it's 9:35, so we can start with our session. Can I request that we take our seats? And let's put our phones on silent. I just hope my other phone is on silent as well. Are we ready? Okay. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Konyera Patlelo from the Office of the Premier. I am a co-facilitator. I am with Dr. Makula from HSRC. We will be facilitating the sessions together. And we just want to take this opportunity to welcome you all in the session, welcoming you in Limpopo. But in welcoming you, I just want to guide those who don't know how to pronounce Limpopo, just to give you some bit of a lesson. When you call Limpopo, you just say Lim, then say Popo. Then you connect the two words, is Limpopo, not Limpompo. Ne? You got it? Thank you. So free lessons, there will be no invoice coming. So let's ensure that we call our province correctly, Limpopo. You are welcome to the heartland of Southern Africa. STI and TB, and also the beneficiaries, to know the evidence, to know what it is that we are doing, and the achievement and the gaps that we are still experiencing in the field of HIV, STI and TB. So we are, as a province, in the process of ensuring that we finalize our provincial implementation plan, and we are currently implementing the national strategic plan for HIV, STI and TB, the 2023-2028 plan. And this information that we are going to get today is very critical in ensuring that we reshape our programs and ensure that we are relevant and address the gaps that have been identified, and also sustain the gains that we have made as a province. So you are all welcome, and I'm going to request Ms. Yani to quickly come, and we open with a word of prayer.
Abshen. Aye, Kongele. Heavenly Father, we just want to say thank you, O God. You are a great and mighty God who give us breath. Father, many have slept yesterday and they didn't wake up today. We are so grateful for that, Father. And Father, we thank you that your breath does not come alone. It comes with wisdom, knowledge, and understanding. And Lord, help us to untap into our wisdom and understanding that you have given us as we deliberate in this day. I pray for everyone that is going to open their mouth, Lord, that they do so with wisdom. In Jesus' mighty name I pray. Amen.
Amen. Thank you. I'm going to hand over to Dr. Hlonolo to continue with the session.
Okay. No, thank you so much, Me Connie, and Tovela, batho ba Limpopo. I'm hoping that I'm pronouncing it very well. If I don't, then it means my work colleagues will be worse than how I'm doing it, because I've had several sessions with them to practice this pronouncing. So I hope they will be able to do that very well. Just as we start, I just want to acknowledge all the protocol, observe it. We are not going to be identifying individuals specifically, but we acknowledge everyone that we are seeing here who has joined us, and we are thankful for that. I also just want to acknowledge colleagues that have joined online. Ms. Sheen Yulandi, who's the dissemination lead for the country, is actually facilitating that virtual space. So colleagues that are joining online, note that you are going to be as part of the discussions as possible. We are going to make sure that you are able to also engage with whatever that we are going to be doing here. So please remain where you are, and also indicate if you have problems hearing us. As Connie, I also just want to start off by really appreciating you and your team, Vududu, Rendani, Vuluhlogonolo Mukwena, from the Office of the Provincial AIDS Council, that have really embraced us as the HSRC and our partners, and ensured that the activities that are planned to do today are well coordinated. You are here because they really worked on weekends, at nights. They've collected some of you even yesterday from certain spaces so that you are able to make it here. So we really, really appreciate the province for the collaboration and also the patience that they had in ensuring that this day becomes a success. So I just want us to shine Me Connie and her team for that excellent work. So you would recall, and I see familiar faces here, we initially came here in April 2022 to launch the beginning of data collection. So there were few of you then, because we were focusing on specific individuals, just to announce that we will be in the province, we'll be collecting data. And I also just want to acknowledge the valuable partnerships that we were able to build since then. We spent 15 months in the field. Some of the colleagues that were there holding our hands, including Mema and done easily. During the launch, we also made a promise. We committed to the province that we will come back and give feedback after collecting data in the province. And today, we are a living proof that that commitment that we made is being delivered, right? And we are only able to deliver that through financial resources, of course. For us to be here, it required finance, but also it required us to work with a team to really look into the data, to prepare the report, the presentation, and so forth. So I'd like to acknowledge PEPFAR for their support, Ausi Lucy Mautanyani, who is in the province, and who has also guided us from the beginning of data collection, connected us, and today also here, and having also connected us when we also brought in the idea of dissemination. So we really acknowledge and really appreciate all the work. It's not just us who are going to talk about the results and us who are standing here. It is a lot of people in the province that has made this day possible. I just also want to acknowledge CDC, who co-created the information that we are going to be sharing today, who are our partners and always are supportive of the work that we do. We plan together, we interrogate the data together, we ensure that what we share is factually correct. We have made as many interrogations as possible. Some of the colleagues from CDC are not here, but those that are here, including Pelagia, who was also running around here, climbed mountains with us, went to community meetings with us and everything else. Dr. Bedford, that is going to talk later, who has been with us in various forms of the launches that we've had. So we're really appreciative that our partners are not only visible in our own little offices, but they come as an entourage to make sure that we showcase how many more people are involved in this work. Is not just to the HSRC only. Of course, the work that we are doing, we could not have done it without our field workers. I think, as Connie spoke about, we being the knowledge hub, making sure that we develop. So this work is by the people from our communities, for people in our communities. Our field workers, we're coming from all the districts within the province. Most of them have joined. They spoke the languages that were spoken. They understood the protocols that needed to be followed in the provinces. So we are very, very much grateful. And I know they're excited, having joined online, to receive the results of the hard work that they've put in for 15 months. Their families brought us to have them and travel across the province to ensure that we are able to achieve what we are able to achieve. So some of the provincial leadership who coordinated and ensured that the work is done successfully are here to also receive the results on behalf of the field workers. The STS coordinator ensured that STS counseling, because we're doing testing in the households, and also nurses, professional nurses are supported. Ms. Gladness Marivesia, I see Mr. Abram Maboi, who was also overseeing overall data collection, our quality control coordinator, Noma Kakaka, and Mr. Nyalungu, who also oversaw. So they are here representing the many, many field workers that could not make it here today to receive the results. And these are ambassadors that have been with SABSSM and HSRC for a very long time. And I've also noted the chairperson from the PLHIV sector, who was part of SABSSM and who's part of our ambassadors from SABSSM 3, 4, 5. So when we call, these are the people that know us and that they've worked with us and that continue to be our spokesperson in communities. And having people that are actually leading sectors also, having been part of the SABSSM series, also encourages us, because whatever information that we are going to share here, they'll be able to even facilitate the communication very clearly in communities, in the small meetings that they have, to ensure that people understand what is it that we are doing. So we are the Women Sciences Research Council, and the SABSSM is part of the many work that we have done. It means that it mainly looks at HIV prevalence, incidence, and behavior, and we've been doing this for over 22 years. So we started around 2002 and continue every 3 to 5 years. We come back to you, we come to your communities, we ask for participation, but above and beyond the data collection, we always continue to see how we can collaborate. So what is different from the 5 other surveys that we have done is that before we would respond to provinces as they request us to come and present results. But for the first time, we actually made an effort to say we are dedicating resources in terms of people and any form of resource to dedicate time to really interrogate the data, to make sure that we create a dissemination drive, moving from one province to the other, making sure that people are aware of what we found. It's not just about talking to key stakeholders only, but people on the ground that are responsible for specific districts where we are able to give you a situation of what is happening there. So the goal of us meeting in this manner is to engage. Ne? It is not just for us to talk to you, but for us to talk to each other. So we have in each table an HSRC team member, CDC, SANAC team members. These are our partners who are facilitators. They are going to guide you. If you have questions, if you want to know about more about HSRC, you want to know about SABSSM, if we are saying we've been doing it for more than 20 years, we are doing it over and over again. If you want to know more about that, these are people that will have more deep-end conversations with you throughout the day. And these are the people that also prepared the report, the presentation that's going to offer, we are going to offer you. These are also the people that have already asked you questions. They've asked you to scan something to say you can look at the 3 questions that you can then interrogate with. And part of those questions were related to the exhibition that we have at the back, where we have 12 photos that were nicely curated by our lead, Dr. Zahir Parker, with SANAC, just to help us reflect on the journey of HIV in South Africa. And we are going to have a few of the questions that were asked displayed on the table, on the screen tower. I'll ask you to do that when the time is right. Apart from that, they've also asked you about your expectation. So Ascon will also just read through those expectations that you raised and what you think is unique about you. So we just want to have an understanding of where are we the same and where do we differ. And you'll find that in most cases we are actually the same. We have the same interest, we do this, we like the same things and so forth. So that is what we want to also do. We have intentionally arranged you or pre-selected where you should be seated, right? And that is because we have a diverse group. You have one goal. You are working on issues related to HIV, right? But you are doing it you are using different approaches towards this goal. So the reason why we seated you or mixed you is because we want to get rich conversations coming from you, right? So we'd appreciate it if we remain as we are, and I'm happy that some of the colleagues have already enjoyed the conversations where people are already joking. So that's the nice thing about Limpopo. We are very lively and so forth. So please remain as you are and let's have those conversations and the laughing that we have already started continuing. So in terms of what we have in place in terms of the program, and Asconi has also asked that we acknowledge our leaders before we go to the program. Perhaps we can just specifically speak to the leaders that we want to acknowledge their importance, especially with the protocol that we need to follow within the province.
Thank you, Doc. I just quickly want to, to acknowledge the leaders that we are having. We are having the leadership of the Civil Society Forum in the province and the co-chair of the Provincial AIDS Council. So I'm going to request the co-chair of the AIDS Council, Dr. KG Munyala, to just wave to the House. Thank you. And request also the Deputy Chair of the Civil Society, Memawasa, to also wave to the House. And another Deputy Chair, Mr. Lekalakala, as well to raise. And this is the top leadership, and they are having their leaders with them present here, and also to acknowledge we do have district municipality HAST secretariat who are supporting us in terms of coordination. From Mopani we have Meg Calvia, from Bembe we have Metsiedzi, and also acknowledging the a team from Employee Health and Wellness, from various departments, if you can just all led by Miso and Mr. Mhlanga, just to acknowledge you all. Thank you. If I've missed, because the partners, Dr. Makula, acknowledged you, so I'll leave it at that. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. And just to note, so Mebabasa is one of, Kensan is one of the, when we talk about, and I think some of the causes that have been mentioned, when we talk about HSRC capacitating communities and being visible with engaging colleagues and making sure that they are part of some of the surveys. So it's good that the leadership in the province knows us very, very well in terms of how we work and what we do. So there's a phone that was left. If you find you are not seeing your phone, someone left their phone outside, so it is at there with Nandipa at the back. She'll just raise her hand, and that is a form of acknowledgement on our side as well. So Nandi, you can just give the colleague a phone. So I just want us to just look at the program briefly, colleagues. I'm sure you have it. And it was part of the package that you received in the morning. So we are going to start off with introductions, a bit of introductions. We will also have Dr. John Blandford from CDC addressing us, just to also give a word or two on our behalf of CDC. Then we'll go through a video just as part of the going into the second session, where we'll then be presenting the survey findings. We are going to then allow you to engage. As I've mentioned, there are people that they will have questions that will guide the engagements that we are going to have as a form of reflecting on the provincial results. After that, we are also going to then allow one person within the group to represent the group and just share some of the discussions that would have transpired in your discussions there. And then also, we will then allow the province to also just reflect on the results. Depending on how the day goes, we'll also just update if there are things that we need to shift. We also have an evaluation form that we are also going to give you at the end of the day to just reflect on how the activities went and how we are going to go through that. So, Thabo, I'm going to ask you to display. I'm sure colleagues here had a chance to respond. Dr. Saira has already told me that there are a few questions that have been attended to. So I'm going to ask you to display some of the responses to the 3 questions that we had, and then Auskoni will also take us through some of the reflections that people had in first in terms of the expectations of today, secondly in terms of how what emotions or what thoughts were evoked by the pictures that or photos that they have seen in our gallery there. Third being about their interest. So I'm going to hand over to Auskoni to do that while Thabo also prepares to display the information. And while that is happening, I'm hearing that they say you cannot acknowledge others and miss us. So it is by protocol that we also follow the same procedure. So Auskoni will also just be acknowledging colleagues that she may have missed. And while she does that, I think even before we go to the Mentimeter, while colleagues are preparing, we would like to give you 5 minutes. I think a lot of you have already engaged, but 5 minutes to engage with your neighbor. Ne? Some of you are looking at your phones because you have not spoken to the person next to you. So let's leave the phones, colleagues. These phones are a problem sometimes because we are, even at home, we are talking to the phone more than we are talking to the partner. Ne? And then we say people don't like talking, they are not expressive, they are emotionally absent. Whereas the most important partner has become this phone where you, so let us for once just say, you know what, if I can not look at my phone until lunch, I will achieve everything, anything I put my mind to, because that is something that's always tempting. Ne? So just say it, man. You can do it. I believe it. Ne? Let us use the opportunity we have to engage with someone that you don't know. Ne? to just learn something. Let us use this as an opportunity, as a knowledge exchange opportunity. Ne? After this, we are going to meet again. I'm already seeing my classmates here, some people that I went to University of Limpopo, I see them. Ne? So this is the time that I'll also go to them and do that. And in this province, I know us to be people badi tepe. It's just that asankara vali ko shaya gore re bine stepe. But I'm understanding gore pele re tsamaya mo re santse ba le gore nna ke le shahedi akere mara re santse ba le gore ba ba khona ke chikinya le stepe nyana re se binne batho besho ka se tele Limpopo ba se bone ke step batho ba live stream akwa re ba bontsho re na re bereka jwang ka mo akere. So Mr. DJ re santse re kwe pleasure pele re tsamaya re santse kwa makhazi pele re tsamaya re ka se no tla mo kra se kwe ko sha tsa bo rena re se ke embrace ne gore le rena re kwe rena le majatšenyana akere batho besho. Okay, so ke tlo allow us to do that and also allow you to engage. Ape rena batho ba Limpopo re bolela re fetse akere le nna nka se fetse ka maiko mara ke tlo le dumella gore le engage nyana ga nyane then a se le ena a die ka mgowe then ba le ba ka morago ba tla mpotsa bothabo ge ba le ready monna wa botlokwa.
Thank you so much. Hey, I made a serious omission and I hope I'm not fired. Seskidbon. We are having also our colleagues from the key department, Department of Health, Oskidibone, you just wave, and we are also having from Department of Health, Education. I saw my colleagues that side, Department of Education, Doctor, we acknowledge you as well. Social Development, our colleagues from Social Development, and then our partner, Memotlati from USAID. Where's Memotlati?
Memotlati, yes. So I was saying, just to translate, I was saying that the biggest problem and the best thing about people from Limpopo is that we don't stop talking. Ne? When we start talking, we talk and talk. But that doesn't mean that when we are talking in the front, you should talk. Ne? So today, let's also, apart from putting the phone aside, let's also practice holding it, arresting ourselves from expressing ourselves. Ne? And we know it's in our nature, man. I don't know, is it something that we eat or not, but we are passionate and expressive. Ne? So as colleagues are engaging you in the front, let us, so that when we go back to report to our colleagues, we report correctly. We don't misinform people because we were focusing more on engaging than listening. Ne? There will come a time when we want you to engage and we will allow you, and we know that the engagements are going to take longer than anticipated because that's what we are good at. We engage and we just don't engage for the sake of engaging. We make things move forward, colleagues. Ne? That is one thing about us. Okay, so I'm going to allow Auskoni to talk to that just as what colleagues raised in terms of what are the expectations in terms of the program, what is it that they are expecting out of the day.
Yeah. You know, when you are a left-handed, you always want to be on the left side. One of the areas that the participant will really want to get is that big one. Most of us, we are here to get the feedback from the survey. Ne? 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 Yeah, it's because I'm hearing some sound this side. Yeah. We are here to get some feedback and also to know how we are performing as a province. And then some will also want to learn more about HIV and especially because it is critical for us to know our epidemic in order to respond well to the epidemic as a province. And we also want to engage with partners. We are here also to network and to engage with other partners and to ensure that we collaborate, because one of the weaknesses that we have identified is that we operate in silos. We implement similar programs, but then we do not collaborate and engage and ensure that, because beneficiaries are the same, and it is critical for us that as we are implementing programs, we are in a position to collaborate and to ensure that we achieve our common goal, which is to reduce the burden and to end AIDS and TB by 2030. So all of us are here to ensure that we put all our effort in ending HIV and ensuring that we have a free HIV generation in the country. So I just selected those three. That is why we are here. Over to you, Doctor.
Okay, thank you. And the next question looked at the exhibition. I hope that colleagues were able to do that. Auskoni will talk to that as well. We started 30 minutes or 35 minutes later to allow everyone to really have an option to observe that and reflect on that. So if we, Tabo, you can move on to the second question, which looked at how did the image gallery make you feel?
Yeah. You know, when we were in that queue, you could see, I saw Kensani, you could see some emotions coming out when they saw the 1999. And you could see the emotions. They were smiling, and the smile was smile of relief to say, thank God we're able to have treatment and lives were saved. So there were those emotions that were expressed, hopeful that we are in the process of ending AIDS, because now, if you look at the prevalence, it's high because people are living longer, and we are no longer, yes, discrimination is still there and stigma, but when you look at the work that has been done, it has reduced that. And then proud of SA, that as a country, we are working together and purposefully so. You know, if you look at this survey itself, where resources have been put to ensure that we have this survey continuing, like Doc, you indicated that over 20 years this has been done, and every time the survey is done, there are new lessons learned, and that is the reason why we saw that reaction of being a proud South African. And another was excitement. You know, when you are a child and you are going to receive something, it was as if we are going to get, you know, tokens, but it's not necessarily tokens, but that information, we know that information is power, and you'll be in a position to respond relevantly in the community and to speak facts and not what you assume. So we are here to speak facts and to produce information that is backed by research.
No, thank you so much. We'll move on to the last question, but I think it's very important to also acknowledge that the HIV that we knew in 1999 or those years, and the HIV that we know today is completely different. I mean, the fact that we are meeting today with so much hope, so much energy, and we can only have had that because a lot of evidence was collected to drive how we respond. And again, it's what you are saying about collectively responding. Even though today we still work in silos, we can see how much we can do if we try to partner and make sure that all the efforts that we are doing independently that are focusing on one thing, if we all try to see how we can collaborate, share information, how much more we can achieve, right? Particularly when we will be also be talking about the drivers of HIV in the province and nationally. So there's so much that we have achieved, and we stand on the shoulders of many, many people that have done excellent work, including Professor Olive Sishana. There are so many. There will be a slide video that also just shows you how much it even took to actually get this study started. Nelson Mandela, who actually funded the first study to really get us understand what is the true nature, how much impact from denialism to where we are today. There's a lot that has been done, and we could not have done it without you. We could not have done it without many other people that are not here today, but that fought the battle until the end of their days. So we stand on their shoulders. We are able to achieve what we are able to achieve because they were resilient and they were able to stand up for what we believe is correct. I think as a young child, I remember watching news. Obviously, the news were boring then because you want to also go to Limpopo and so forth. But we know Nkosi Johnson, we know Zahi Ahmad. Those are the faces that were familiar to us. We got to understand what this is about because of such faces. And of course, people that were born before us or that were much more older, by the time we were familiar with such faces, will also know other people. So there are those that may not be acknowledged nationally, there are those that may not have their pictures there. But as we remember where we come from, we are also reminded of everyone that we know closer to us that has also contributed to where we are today, and we are grateful for their work. So now the last question, Thabo, are you ready? It's about one thing that makes you unique. Batho ba Limpopo, what makes you unique as individuals?
Yeah. If you look, you see, you were earlier appreciating the field workers and the work they have done. The love for research, they do. We don't have resources, but people of Limpopo love research. They want to use evidence in whatever they are doing. So we are encouraging HSRC to come again with more resources to expand on other areas. So love for research and curiosity. You'll hear the questions as they're engaging. They're being curious, wanting to know, wanting to learn. That is one thing that makes us unique as a province, and also dedication. We want to achieve, we want to work together, even if it's not happening the way we want it to happen. But there is that issue of, it's just that I don't see it there, but social cohesion is what brings us together and ensure that we are collaborating in our differences and acknowledging that we are not the same, but we are gifted differently and we can achieve together even though we are different and we see things differently.
Yeah. So as the HSRC, I've never seen people as friendly as us, ne? We are the most friendliest. So if we invite us, we come. So this time around, we invited ourselves to the province, ne? So you cannot say you must come back. You must tell us, come back and do 1, 2, 3, ne? And we'll make ourselves available. Yeah. I think Dr. Lucy Memarima had invited us to Palabura site some other time to share work with the research forum, where we're just telling people, look, this is what we are busy doing. They even advised us, when you come to Palabura site, it was actually in Mopan, when you come to Palabura site, look out for this and that, ne? So when you want us, just tell us, we will come. I know Mr. Mkwena had already asked us, or no, I want you to look at 1, 2, 3 questions. We will look at them. It's just that between now and September, we are moving from one province to another, ne? And there are provinces that have already invited us many times, and I'm like, how my people, hape rena batho ba Limpopo re phela re le di number 1, mara in terms of inviting, I didn't see that. So we actually are also asking the province, the Department of Health that is here through Ausrefilwe and Kidiboni, and many other stakeholders that are here, that if you need information, we are available. If it's work that we do a lot of work in the communities. Kensani was asking me about stigma index, because that's what we also do. Someone was asking me about TB. So there's a lot of work that we do. Today we're just wearing the cap for SABSSM. So we have information that could also have, but we're not just coming to give you results. Lerena, when we come and say we're collecting data, in that area around where we are experiencing difficulties, you must help us to access so that we're able to collect samples, so that we're able to collect information that will help us be able to provide you with the evidence that you need to further direct where you should go. Ne? So this collaboration, we're actually extending our hand. We're coming here in numbers that we're here to extend our hand to say, let us be your friends. We don't need much, just a friendship, exchanging and networking, so that we know, not only for us to come and present. When you have engagement, Dr. Ralamivana was talking about the research forum that exists within the province where we can also share fundings. When you have engagements, even if we don't have to talk, we would like to be part of those discussions so that we understand what is happening on the ground, right? So please feel free, don't be, we are part of the communities. We come from these communities, and it's nice that we are also able to engage in this platform. So colleagues, we have now completed the 3 questions that you have answered to. So the whole day, this is how we are going to be engaging. There will be people that also capture information, and then we will be able to do feedback so that we're able to see what the thoughts are. So now I'm going to call upon Dr. John Blandford from the Center for Disease Control and Prevention to briefly just address us before we move on to the video for the survey as well. Thanks.
Good morning to everybody. After our opening this morning about discussing proper pronunciation, it's ironic that one of your first speakers is an American speaker of English who will manage to butcher everything here. So apologies for my English before I start. I'd like to recognize our colleagues from the Department of Health, the Department of Social Development, the Department of Education, SANAC, and the Limpopo AIDS Council, the many and diverse representatives of civil society, our USAID and other PEPFAR colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, all protocols observed. I'd like to congratulate HSRC, its partners, and the government of South Africa for completing the 6th National HIV Household Survey. And frankly, for an impressive legacy of leading national HIV surveys in South Africa over the past 20 years. SABSSM is a survey led by South African scientists to improve the lives of South Africans. As such, SABSSM demonstrates how investment in key partners and institutions has established a legacy of country-owned data, infrastructure, and capacity to respond to current and future health threats. At the U.S. Centers for Disease Control and Prevention in South Africa, CDC, we're proud to have collaborated with the Human Sciences Research Council on this important survey. CDC has been partnering with the HSRC since 2005 to conduct the SABSSM survey through financial and technical support And this collaboration, spanning now nearly 2 decades, has been made possible by funding through the U.S. President's Emergency Plan for AIDS Relief, PEPFAR. So today's dialogue, just to give some context, is just the beginning of a conversation with the Department of Health and partners and civil society about using SABSSM 6 data to inform program strategies and planning and priorities in Limpopo and in the future. As with previous rounds of the survey, the SABSSM team has already made granular data available to guide programming for HIV care and treatment and prevention interventions, including key data for modeled HIV estimates at national, provincial, and district levels. You'll see these reflected in the Tembisa and Naomi models. The findings that have already been disseminated at the national level are encouraging and demonstrate how South Africa's HIV policies and programs have contributed to a stabilizing HIV epidemic, increasing levels of population viral load suppression, and promising trends in HIV prevalence and incidence among adolescent girls and young women. The surveys also helped us understand where we have made great progress and which areas we need to focus on in the future. With these data,
This colleague would also be going through the conclusion. Just to note, colleagues, the province has asked us as we present to note that we have colleagues that are also partially blind and some are having difficulties with hearing properly. So as we present, we must also just make sure that we are a bit, we speak slowly or softly to allow them to also engage with the findings. So I'm going to call upon Professor Kangalani Zuma to take the stage, and he will also introduce the other colleagues that will then share some of the findings with him.
Good morning, colleagues. Hope you are all well. And also, again, it's really a pleasure for us to be back in the Limpopo province. I would say this is the only province where the warmth of the province competes with the warmth of its people. So it's really always a pleasure for me to be in Limpopo. So colleagues, colleagues from NDOH, Department of Education, Social Development, our partners, SANAC, and members of civil society, ladies and gentlemen, and all protocols observed, it's really my pleasure to be presenting to you today the 6th survey, the South African National HIV Prevalence Incidence and Behavior Survey, a study that we call SABSSM. Maybe at some stage we'll have a competition as to who can, or maybe some sort of an award for someone who can really tell us what does SABSSM mean or what does it stand for. So colleagues, I'll be taking you through the results and also just giving you, let me see, oh yeah, yes, it moves. I'll be taking you through the results. At first, this is the overview of the presentation, where I'll give you the background of where the study is coming from. And colleagues have already alluded to some of the beginnings of this survey. And also I'll take you through the objectives, the methodology, provincial results that we'll cover. Obviously, we'll present provincial results, but in relation, and we'll place provincial results in relation to other provinces as well as the national statistics. Okay. And also, we'll cover results that include people who are taking ARVs, and also the levels of viral load suppression, and also give an indication of the progress that we have made towards the 95 targets. So colleagues, as indicated, and my colleagues that have spoken before me have indicated that this study started long time ago. And it started at a time whereby one could not even imagine living happily with HIV. It started at the time whereby HIV was synonymous to a death sentence. But here we are today, we are speaking a different language. We are talking about actually ending HIV and AIDS as a threat by 2030. In the early 90s, we would never think such would be a possibility. So the study has been done for, this is the 6th survey that we are doing. We started in 2002. The next one was in 2005. Actually, the 2002, as colleagues indicated, was pioneered and also funded by the Nelson Mandela Foundation and pioneered by our former president, Dr. Nelson Mandela. And then in 2005, other partners joined, CDC joined when we were doing the 2005 survey, and CDC has been with us up until today as we implement the 2022 survey. So the study has been expanded in scope in the sense that when we started, we were going to a sample of households and interviewing a few groups of people within a household. We're taking at most 4 people to participate in this study in different age groups. But now it has expanded. When we get to a household, we invite everybody in the household to participate in this study. The study has also expanded in the sample size, that is in the numbers of people that participate in the study, in the sense that previously we were taking fewer people. Now we have expanded. We have increased even the numbers that we collect or the information we collect at district level so that we are able to provide results that are representative at district level, because actually that is where interventions take place, not only at national, not only at provincial, but at district level. That's where interventions actually take place. And the expansion, as indicated, is that when we get to a household, we invite everybody to participate in the study. So over the years, this study has been a major source of information for measuring the progress towards the national towards attaining the goals of our national strategic plan for HIV, TB, and STIs and TB. Now, what are the main objectives of this study? One is to estimate the national HIV or the HIV prevalence at national level, at provincial level, and also at district level. Not all the districts were included in the study. Some districts were included. Some of those districts that were identified or that are included are those that are considered to be PEPFAR priority districts. And we've also added 6 districts that were identified by National Department of Health as important districts to be included in this study. So we provide estimates at national, provincial, and district level of HIV. We provide HIV prevalence. We provide estimates of exposure to ART, that is the proportions of people that are on treatment, and also the proportions of people that are virally suppressed. Then, also the study is powered enough as part of the objectives to present estimates at national level of HIV incidence. Now, this is incidence, it's a very important indicator because it tells us about the rate of new infections. That is, if people or a group of people were HIV negative at the beginning of the year, how many of those would be HIV positive by the end of the year? So that's the incidence, which is different from the prevalence, which is the burden of disease. However, for us to be able to provide estimates for incidence, even at lower levels like province or even a district, you would require a lot of people actually to seroconvert. You would require a lot of people to get infected with the HIV to be able to estimate that incidence more precisely. So because of the fewer numbers of people that are getting infected with HIV, which is a good thing, we are only able to estimate HIV incidence at national level, which is a bad thing. So you can choose which side you want to belong to. Okay. So now, how is the study designed? As indicated, the study, it's a national survey. So which means we go to all provinces, all the 9 provinces in the country. And in our country, the country is divided into what you call small area layers. So these are small geographic communities with about 250 to 350 households. There are about 84,000 or so of them in the country, and that database is kept by Stats SA. So what we do in this study, we randomly select over 2,000 of these small area layers. And in randomly selecting them, we make sure that we stratify so that we make sure we've got sufficient small area layers so that we can present results at provincial level. Furthermore, we've got sufficient small area layers within each of the 33 districts. That is the 27 PEFA priority districts and the 6 NDOH priority districts, so that the results are representative at that level. Within each of these districts, we then have these small area layers. Within each of the small area layers, we then randomly select 15 households, 15 visiting points. So that's the cluster of households that are selected. So in each of the over 2,000 small area layers, we've got 15 visiting points that are selected. And then within each of these 15 visiting points that agree to participate, everybody in that household is invited to participate. And that is why the survey design is called a cross-sectional population-based household survey that uses a multi-stage stratified cluster random sampling. Now, this approach, we then get into a household, we invite everyone in the household to participate, we administer a questionnaire, and once we complete a questionnaire, we're done with the questionnaire interview, we then invite a person to provide a blood specimen so that we can do a number of tests that I'm going to show you momentarily. Now, that is the gold standard of doing these studies, and this has been verified in the number of surveys that we've implemented, and this methodology has been adopted by many other countries as the way of doing these second-generation surveillance surveys. So we implemented the study from January 2022 up to April 2023. So that is why we call the study SABSSM 5, which was done year 2022. The map of Limpopo, okay, the map of Limpopo, this was a setup, I nearly said Limpopo. So the map here just shows you the distribution. Each dot indicates the small area layer. So that's the geographical community I was talking about that has about 250 to 350 households or visiting points or dwelling units in each of these areas. So the map just shows the distribution of the areas that were covered. So we'll see that in some districts we've got more small area layers because intentionally, a lot more small area layers were randomly selected in those districts so that we can have sufficient results to be able to do specific analysis that focuses on those districts. Now, when we get to a household, we have a questionnaire that we call a household questionnaire. So this questionnaire is actually used to record the household listing, so the household census, the numbers of people in each house, different age groups, and all other household level variables that we collect. And then we identify all the individuals by their age group because we've got an age-specific questionnaire that we administer. We have a questionnaire that is administered, we call it a parent or a guardian questionnaire. That is the questionnaire that is administered for those that are younger than 12 years. And the questionnaire is responded to by a parent or a guardian on behalf of the child. So we ask questions that are child specific. And then we have another questionnaire, we call it a child questionnaire, that's a 12 to 14-year-old questionnaire. We ask questions and that questionnaire is responded to by the 12 to 14-year-old child directly. And then in that questionnaire, we've got some basic sexual behavioral questions that we ask. Then we have another questionnaire, the fourth one, which is the questionnaire for those that are aged 15 years and above. So in this questionnaire, we ask a lot of detailed questions about the behavior and knowledge of HIV. This is actually the part of the CAP survey of the study, where we ask the detailed questions among those that are 15 years and above. As indicated earlier on, we use a dry blood spot kit to collect blood specimen. So in doing that, we do a finger prick, we collect blood, and then we do spotting on this kit and this Guthrie card where we put dry blood spots that are taken to the lab for analysis. For infants that are younger than 2 years, we actually do a heel prick among the young ones. After we've collected the dry blood spot, we then take that to the lab for testing, for HIV testing. Those that test HIV positive, and obviously we do confirmatory test to confirm that those that test positive are truly infected. So for those that test positive, we then further subject the test or blood to another test that tells us whether this person was recently infected. So we test whether a person was infected within the last 6 months. With that information, then we do calculations as statisticians. I'm also one of the statisticians. We do calculations to actually test or to estimate HIV incidence over a period of a year. And then also we subject the blood to another test that tells us whether the person is taking any of the antiretrovirals that are present in the country. We further do another test for viral load suppression. And I will hasten to indicate that the viral load suppression, we use a cutoff point of 1,000 copies as an indication in surveillance, as an indication that a person was virally suppressed. So for people whose viral load is less than 1,000, even if it is 900, that person is considered to be virally suppressed. Obviously, there are other tests that go further down, even to 50 copies, but our test, if you use dry blood spot, we're only limited to the cutoff point. Actually, if you go down, we can only have a specific indication of 800 as the copies. So less than 1,000 is an indication that a person is virally suppressed. If we want to be more specific, going lower down, then we'll need a full blood to be able to do that. Now, what are the results, or where are we? Okay, the results in Limpopo. Now, we went to almost 2,000 households that were approached. Of these households, 88.2% were found to be valid. Remember, this is a household survey. We go to households whereby there are people who live in those households. We do not go to institutions or institutions like your hospitals or other facilities, except in the hostels, for example. We don't go to institutions such as prisons. We avoid institutions or where it's a business institution. Now, of the valid household, we got just over 4,000 people that were eligible to participate. And it's people of all ages that were eligible to participate. And of these 4,000 people, 90.9% of them were interviewed. So you can see, colleagues, there that once our team is allowed to get into the household, we are able to encourage people to participate. So the only challenge is getting approval at household level. And that is why we are here together, so that when we do other studies going forward, we need to improve the ways in which, or find ways in which we can encourage people to actually allow our data collectors to come in and collect this information, because this is important information. The planning and all that we need to know about HIV epidemic is from this study. Others, it's models, for example, that are informed by this study. So going forward, we need to continue working together to improve that 76%, push it even to 99% if we can, because we can see that once we are able to get to a household, we are able to encourage people to participate. And furthermore, of the 91% that agreed to complete a questionnaire, 53% of them agreed to provide a blood specimen. And again, we need to improve also that, because for these biomarkers, we need to have as much samples as possible. And also, colleagues, we can see that females were more likely to participate than males. Again, we need to encourage males to participate in these surveys. As the results will show, as we're going forward, that actually the situation is even more concerning in terms of HIV epidemic among males. So we need to encourage them to participate. Now, the HIV prevalence in the province, or let's start in the country, just to remind ourselves, colleagues, at national level, the HIV prevalence was 14% in 2017. In 2022, the prevalence went down to 12.7. Okay. Now, some of the things that we just need to flag in interpreting these statistics, the decline in HIV prevalence in a country can happen because of, I would say, two reasons, for example. One of them could be that if you have a particular group of people living with HIV, if people die because of HIV, or more people die who are living with HIV than other group, then the prevalence will go down, because the prevalence is the burden of disease, is the proportion of people that live with an infection. That's one of the reasons where we can see a decline. The other could be if more people are born HIV negative, because people are on ARVs, and U equals U, people are born HIV negative, so due to population growth, and people are not getting infected, then the prevalence would go down. But the numbers of people living with HIV then would remain the same, because people are not dying. So we always need to keep in mind that when we see these statistics, we always need to think what could be contributing to the decline or to the increase in HIV prevalence, because that is what will tell us whether we are doing good or we're not doing good. Now, we see a decline in HIV prevalence, and also the other factor that affects the surveys is selective participation in the surveys. If you find that people that know that they are living with HIV, if they are more likely not to participate in the study, then that also affects the statistics that we see. So we always need to think aloud as to what could be the reasons contributing to this. And looking at the province in Limpopo, we see that in 2017, the prevalence was 10.1, and the prevalence went down to 8.9% in 2022. So what does this translate to? This means in year 2022, in the province of Limpopo, 570,000 people were actually living with HIV. More than 500,000 people were living with HIV in the province. And if you look at the epidemic profile in the HIV, it is encouraging that if you look at year 2022 compared to year 2017, among young people younger than 35 years, the HIV prevalence curve is below the one of 2017. So which means fewer people were actually getting infected with HIV in 2022 compared to 2017. So, and again, if you look at the curve, it is sort of shifting towards the right-hand side. Now, that's an indication that people living with HIV are actually living longer even after 3 to 5 years that we are coming back, we still find people living longer. And what could be contributing to that? It's actually people being on the ARVs living longer. And if you look at the highest point in 2017, it was among those 44 to 45 at 36.9. This survey round, the highest point is at, well, about, although it's a bit not smooth, it's among those 50 to 54 years. So it is actually slightly shifting towards the right-hand side. So people are living longer with HIV. Now, by demographic factors, again, HIV epidemic consistently higher, slightly higher among females compared to males. And obviously, the dynamics of HIV epidemic are such that there's higher risk of HIV transmission from males to females than from females to males. Now, and we see that pattern going on even among older males compared to younger females, whereby generally males start catching up at the later ages, around 40s and above. Then their HIV begins to be higher than that of females. Also, HIV prevalence was found to be higher, slightly higher in rural areas compared to other areas, and followed by urban areas, and least in areas that we call rural informal, that is your traditional villages. As indicated earlier on, HIV prevalent or almost 3 times higher, well, just 2.5 times higher among females compared to males. But of course, we know the dynamics of HIV epidemic transmission. As indicated by district, not all districts were included in the sense that with sufficient numbers of small area layers in each of these districts. Only 3 districts where we have sufficient information. Bembe district, the prevalence there was about 8.9%. Mopane district, the prevalence was about 9%. And Capricorn district, the prevalence was about 8.5%. So Vembe district and Mopane district were the 2 districts that had the highest HIV prevalence. So the other 2 districts, we did not have sufficient small area layers for us to be able to have data representative in those districts. Hopefully, going forward, funding permits, we will be able to include those. So if we could get more resources, then other districts could be included. So we need to just keep in mind which districts have got a higher prevalence than others, and what does that mean. Now, if you look at HIV prevalence, for example, with the 570,000 people that are living with HIV, we actually found that 80.8% of them were on ARVs. So this is an increase from 62.8% in 2017, where 62.8% were living with HIV and on ARVs. Now it's about 80.8% of people that are living with HIV and are on ARVs, which says to us actually about 110,000, roughly about 110,000 people. Of the 570,000 people, 110,000 of those people are actually not on ARVs. And that is a concern, because if we are to deal with HIV epidemic, we need to have as many people, or even if all of them, although we target 95, but we need to have as many people on ARVs as much as possible, because it is one way of getting people to be virally suppressed. So about 110,000 people in Limpopo, out of 570,000 people who are living with HIV, are not on ARVs. So we need to look at who are those people, where are they, and we can encourage them to be put on treatment. Now, overall antiretroviral treatment, as indicated, it's at 80.8%. females are more likely to be on ARVs compared to males. Okay. And again, if you remember, there is higher risk of HIV transmission from males to females compared to the other way around. Now, you've got fewer males on treatment compared to females. So you've got a bigger pool of males that are living with HIV who are not on treatment, who are less likely to be virally suppressed, and if they have sexual contact, unprotected sexual contact, they are more likely to transmit the virus. So we need to look closer to this. Now, we see some gaps, like on 0 to 14, 5 to 24, we see that there are dashes there among people who are on ARVs. Now remember, we had the results on the prevalence of HIV in these age groups. Those dashes there are more concerning because we've got those dashes because we did not have sufficient numbers of people in the study who were on ARVs in these age groups so that we can be able to report. It does not mean that there is no one who is HIV positive. Remember, for you to take ARVs, you must be HIV positive, then you are put on treatment. But in this case, we saw that there are people who are HIV positive. We've got statistics on prevalence. But we don't have sufficient numbers of people who are on ARVs. So which means we've got, in this pool of 110,000 people who are living with HIV and not on ARVs, some of them are 0 to 14 years, some of them are 15 to 24 years of age. And that is a concern. Having young people living with HIV and not on treatment, and more often than not, they are less likely to know their HIV status at that stage. So that is a concern that we need to deal with also. So those dashes, the fact that there are no numbers there, it is more concerning for me, and it should be a concern for us that we've got people living with HIV, young people living with HIV, but are not on treatment. And again, going back, you remember that Vembe district is one district that had the highest prevalence. But if you look there, it's one district that has got the lowest numbers of people that are on treatment. And that is a concern also. We can't have, it's no longer about the numbers of people that are living with HIV. That contest, it's no longer there. The issue is how many people do we have that are living with HIV but are not on treatment, because these are carriers of the virus that are likely to transmit the virus at any time. So that is a concern. So it's a 76.4%, the numbers of people that, proportions of people that are on treatment is the lowest compared to all other districts where we collected information. Now, the important indicator, viral load suppression. People who are living with HIV, they need to be virally suppressed so that they cannot transmit the virus. That's the whole intention of U equals U. Now, we have made strides as a country. In 2017, 61.6% of people were virally suppressed. We have made strides there. Now we're at 81.4% of people that are virally suppressed. But of course, my colleague, Edmo, will take us through the 95, 95, 95 target to show us where we are. But just overall viral suppression, we're still not there yet. If you look at the province, we were at 60.8% in 2017. 2022, it's 77% of people that are actually virally suppressed. And if you go back to 570,000 people that are living with HIV, and if anything about numbers from a person with my surname can be trusted, there are 200,000 people actually who are living with HIV in the province, but who are not virally suppressed. If you look at that, about 33% of 570,000, 200,000 people in the province are not virally suppressed. They are living with HIV and they are not virally suppressed, which means if they are having unprotected sexual intercourse, we've got this pool of 200,000 people that is likely to transmit the virus. And that should be a concern for all of us. And those are the numbers that we need to bring down. Now, overall viral load suppression, again, as we've just indicated, females are more likely, well, males and females are more or less on the same level, about 77%, 77.8% likely to be virally suppressed. But look at among young people, younger than 24, younger than 25, we don't have statistics there. It's because the numbers were not, of people, viral suppression were not sufficient enough. But remember, we have proportions of people living with HIV in these age groups, but they are not on treatment, and few of them are virally suppressed to be able to report. So the fact that there are no numbers, it tells us a lot, and we should be concerned about that. And you can see that among older people, they are more likely to be virally suppressed. And most of them are more likely to have been on treatment for a longer period. So you can see that people, once they are on treatment, they live longer, they are more likely to be virally suppressed. So we do need to encourage people to be on treatment. And of course, people in urban areas, the proportions there were higher of people who were virally suppressed compared to or followed by people in the rural areas, and least in the rural formal areas or in the farms. Now, in terms of the population that is virally suppressed, remember that Vembe and Mopani were the two districts that had the highest prevalence. And you can see here, Mopani is the district that is less likely to have people who are virally suppressed, but it is among the districts that had the highest numbers of people that were living with HIV. So areas where we've got large numbers of people who are living with HIV, we do need to put more efforts making sure that those people are actually on treatment and those people remain virally suppressed if we are on track to actually see ourselves having a HIV epidemic no longer a threat to life by 2030 as we are intending. Colleagues, I will stop there for now, and then my colleague Edmo will take over, and then my colleague Rindizane will take over on other parts of the presentation. Over to you, Edmo.
Good morning, colleagues, partners from the province, our research partners, as well as civil society. I guess all protocols observed. I'm going to walk you through the 95 targets. But before I actually do that, I mean, I think, we should say some caveats in terms of these estimates, or what I'm going to be talking about. If you look at the province in terms of your planning, you normally use the Tembisa estimates. Those are the official figures that actually come from government. And they're actually based on mathematical models. So it's a simple mathematical equation that says, if we assume that the number of children who are infected is this much, people on ATA are this much, and so on, then we expect these numbers to be, to be standing at this point. So Tembisa models are actually used to estimate or for planning purposes and for reporting. If you look at our SABSSM study, it's a simple cross-sectional survey, what we call empirical studies. So we go in the population, we grab a group of people, we test them, and then we report what we actually see. So when you talk about prevalence, we talk about AT coverage, we talk about viral suppression, it's reflective of what you're actually seeing at that point in time. It's a cross-sectional snap of what is presented in terms of data. Kangalani spoke briefly about the need for having enough numbers and representation. For us to actually get reliable estimates, it means we need to cover everyone in those groups in order to actually report these accurately. So I thought I would actually say that. And then in terms of the 95-95 concept, the idea is that in fact, if we put enough people on treatment and they respond well, their viral load is suppressed, then we should see more and more people, less and less people being infected. That's why we actually say, that will result in the epidemic coming down. Now, we've deliberately put in the definitions there. If you look at all the reports that we're actually using here, these are not self-reported, not necessarily a bit of it, self-reported figures. So when we say people are virally suppressed, we actually test them. And we see is their viral load below 1,000, and then we say they are virally suppressed. A person who comes in who's on treatment and his viral load is above 1,000 is going to be classified as not being virally suppressed. So you can have people who are actually are on treatment, but they are not necessarily doing well in terms of viral suppression, either because of adherence issues or because of resistance issues. And then in terms of the ART analyzer as well, we actually tested for the bioavailability of ART in their blood. But because of sampling, we took a few blood drops, which we actually used to test across a number of things. So there are instances where, in a sense, you didn't have enough sufficient blood to actually test, for instance, for ART analytes, but the person had a viral load result. So if they self-reported that, in fact, they were on ART, then we imputed that to say that they were actually on ART. But it's in only instances where they actually provided a blood sample and we couldn't actually get an ART result. And then, of course, the first 95 is, people who know their HIV status. So they either reported that they were HIV infected or they had ART analytes in their blood. So that's the definition that we used in, okay. Which one am I supposed to use here? The top one? Oh, okay. All right, so to actually move on to the actual results. So overall, in Limpopo, the first 95 was 88.6%, about 89%, which means 89% of people who were living with HIV knew that they were actually infected. And of those individuals, 90.5% were on ART. And then of those people who were on ART, 90.9% were virally suppressed. This is a condition definition, so you know your status. It's the entry point to treatment. If you know your status, then we expect you to be actually on treatment. And then if you're on treatment, we hope that you're actually doing well on treatment. Kangalani reported population level ART coverage is always population level viral suppression, which means every person who tested positive, are they on ART or are they virally suppressed? I think we need to actually make those two distinctions. And obviously, I mean, if we look at the issue in terms of ART suppression, the idea is to have as high as possible a population level ART viral suppression. Right? We may look at 90.9% as being good, but it's all conditioned on the other two. If there are few people who know their status, then it means population-wise, we actually have very few people who are virally suppressed. Now, if we stratify by sex, we find that in fact females are doing relatively better, especially on the second 95. The rate for females is 88.9 at the first 95, 93.5 the second one, and then 90.1 the third one. Compared to males, 87.8 the first 95, 83.0 the second one. The target for that, if you're looking at population level, it should actually be about 91%. So it's quite low. But remember the target, if we're using this, sorry, let me take a step back. If we're looking at this 95 in terms of population level contributions, the first 95 obviously has to be 95. If we condition that 85 should be 95, right? So you can actually look at the gap between, the 83 and 95. We're almost 12% short in terms of achieving that second 95. But once everyone goes on treatment, the comparison between males and females is quite similar. Okay. Now, if you stratify by age, we don't have enough data for the 15 to 24, so we didn't report on that. But you see that, in fact, the coverage in terms of the 25 to 49, 89.1%, 95.5%, so they've achieved the second 95. But then virally suppressed, we were at 89.6. Probably suggesting that, in fact, there are issues in terms of treatment, right? Either people are not adhering to treatment well. And then if you look at the 50 plus, it's 89.5, 79.5, and then 97.2 for the older age group. And then if you just look at the reproductive age group, 15 to 49, 88.2, 95.6, and then 88.6. So a mixed bag in terms of where they are, if you look at the 95 targets. If we then stratify by district, Capricorn, first 95, 91.8, 90.4, 95.1, so all above 90%, but for the first two, still falling short of the 95 target. And then Mopane, I managed to pronounce Limpopo, but I'm struggling with Mopane. So Mopane district, in terms of the 95, 88.1, 94, and then 85.6. Now, another way of looking at this is where are the gaps? So if you flip around the 95 targets, and then actually say, we have a group of people living with HIV, right? And then, by the way, the results that I'm reporting here are all 15 years and above, right? I should have said that from the beginning. The other way of looking at this is say, if you look at all the people living with HIV, 100% of them, right? And then we group them by age groups 15 to 24, 25 to 49, and then 50 plus. We'll see that, in fact, the young age group 15 to 24 contribute 4.8% of people living with HIV, right? So if you imagine the 470,000 individuals that Kangelani spoke about, and if we remove children there, we remain with about an odd 420 or so individuals. So we're saying 4.8% of those are young people, 62.2% are people aged 25 to 49, and then a third of that is actually individuals 50 years and older. Now, if we then say of all the individuals who are living with HIV but are not aware of the HIV status, which means they are undiagnosed individuals, they are living with HIV but they don't know their status. So this is the opposite of your first 95. We find that, in fact, 15% of that, so for every 100 individuals, 15% of those, 15 individuals are actually individuals 15 to 24, right? Meaning young people are proportionately contributing a higher percentage to people who don't know their HIV status. If, we could actually, use that rate across in terms of the 4.8%, we should expect young people to be only contributing 4.8% of people who are not aware of their status. And then if you look at the individuals who actually know their status but are not on ART, we find that the same age group, the young people, is 13.3%. Also proportionately in contributing more to individuals who, even if they know that they are infected, they are not necessarily on ART. And then if we look at people in virus load suppression, so looking at individuals who are actually on ART, but then who are not virally suppressed, 11.4% of those are actually young individuals. So young people are, in a sense, not doing very well in terms of diagnosis, in terms of being on ART, as well as virally suppressed. And then if we look at the other sort of variable that we looked at is, if we look at, stratification by where people are, urban areas, rural, formal, or our tribal areas, as well as farms. According to this, people in urban areas will contribute as 15.6%, rural, formal, 64.9%, and then the farms are 19.5% in terms of people living with HIV. And the contribution of each of those in terms of not knowing one's status is 26.7%, which means in urban areas, proportionately, there are people who are not diagnosed in urban areas compared to the other, they contribute more, to people who are not actually aware of their HIV status. And then if you look at on being on ART, urban areas, they contribute 27.3% of people who are aware of their status but who are not on ART. And then the last one, if we look at individuals who are actually on ART but not virally suppressed, we find that urban areas will contribute 18.8% in terms of that proportion. I'm going to stop here and ask my colleague Randy to talk about the behavioral drivers of the epidemic. Thank you.
Thanks, colleagues, and good afternoon. So I will be taking you through some of the findings on the key drivers of HIV, of which most of them are more behavioral factors. And this is among the respondents who are 15 years and above, nothing on the children. These would include sexual debut before the age of 15, multiple sexual partners, condom use, consistency in condom use, awareness and uptake of PrEP, and also HIV testing. So for sexual debut before the age of 15, at a national level in 2022, it was 11.2% compared to 13% in 2017. And in Limpopo, we saw a decline, a substantial decline from 13.5% in 2017 to 8.7% in 2022. And when we stratify this by sex and other demographic factors, more males were engaging in sex before the age of 15 versus females, with most residing in urban areas. And by district, majority of the respondents were from Bembe district with 12.9%. In terms of multiple partners in the last 12 months, among the respondents aged 15 years and older, at a national level, we saw a decline from 10.8% in 2017 to 8.9% in 2022. And in Limpopo, in 2022, 11.4% reported having multiple partners, multiple sexual partners, compared to 12% in 2017. And stratified by sex and age, we found that most males, threefold males had multiple sexual partners compared to their female counterparts. And in terms of age, those aged 15 to 24 contributed a higher percentage at 15.8%. And when we stratify the multiple sexual partners by district, we find that most of the respondents with multiple partners were residing in Bembe district at 14.4%, and the lowest being those residing in farm areas at 6.4%. And when we look at condom use during the most recent apologies, colleagues, we just had technical glitches. Tabo and colleagues will be helping us there at the back. If we could just be a little bit patient with them. Okay, if we can just come back to the presentation, colleagues. Okay. Okay. Okay, I think we were here on multiple sexual partners by geotype or locality, of which the lowest was among those residing in farm areas. In terms of the condom use with the most recent sexual partner, at a national level of concern, there was a decline in condom use, wherein in 2017 it was 39%, and then there was a drop to 31.8%. That was the same picture in Limpopo, 2022, only 29.8% of the respondents reported that they used condom with their most recent sexual partner, compared to 41.6% in 2017. And when we looked at the consistency of condom use with the last sexual partner, of concern is that 53% of the respondents aged 15 years and older in Limpopo mentioned that they had never used condom in their last, with their last sexual partner, with only 4.4% reporting that they used condoms almost every time. And then consistency of condom use by district, it was highest in Bembe and lowest in Mupane district. And then we also looked at the self-reported circumcision among males aged 15 years and older. At a national level, in 2022, 63.7% of males reported that they were circumcised, compared to 60% in 2017. And in Limpopo, there was a substantial increase in the rate of circumcision, wherein 87.7% of males reported being circumcised versus 81.3% in 2017. And looking at the age groups, self-reported circumcision was lower among those aged 25 to 49 at 85.5%, and also lower among those who reside in farm areas at 72.2%. And when we look at circumcision by district, among those aged 15 to 24, it was lowest in Capricorn at 95.2 and highest in Bembe. Among those aged 25 to 34, it was lower in those who reside in Mupani and higher in Capricorn. Among those aged 25 to 49, it was lowest in Mupani and highest in Bembe at 96.4%. And when we look at the circumcision types, which is medical versus traditional, or those who have had both circumcisions. At a national level, 60% of the males reported that they had received medical circumcision versus 39.2% of those who said they were traditionally circumcised. And in Limpopo, 52% said that they were traditionally circumcised. And when we look at the circumcision types by age and locality, we find that medical circumcision was lower among those aged 25 to 49 years old, and it was higher among those who reside in urban areas compared to the other localities. And in terms of the district, medical circumcision was higher in Capricorn and lowest in Mupani district at 45.3%. And we also looked at the awareness and uptake of PrEP among those aged 15 years and older, and overall we find that 24.5% said that they have heard of PrEP, while 58.1% indicated that they are willing to take PrEP if it is offered to prevent HIV. And by district, it was the awareness. Those that said that they have heard of PrEP was higher among those coming from Mopani versus the other district. And also the willingness of taking PrEP was higher in Mopani at 54.7%. And we also looked at the HIV testing by age groups and sex, and we found that among females, 28.9% of those aged 15 to 24 said that they have never tested for HIV. And among the male counterparts, those adolescents and youth aged 15 to 24 years, 55.8% reported that they had never tested for HIV. So I'm going to hand over to our CDC colleague, Dr. Pelagia Marangandi, to take us through the concluding remarks. Thanks, colleagues.
Good morning, colleagues. My name is Pelagia Mranganti, and I'm going to be taking you through the conclusions and actions for consideration and all protocol observed. So, in conclusion, we see that the data is showing a downward shift on the epidemic curve which reflects a stabilizing HIV epidemic. We also see that ART coverage and population viral suppression has increased markedly between 2017 and 2022. But we still see disparities in the burden of HIV by gender, with a higher, which is 1.5 to 2.5 fold higher prevalence among females aged 15 to 24 and 25 to 49 years as compared to males. We also see that gaps in the clinical cascade or 95-95-95 targets still remain, with youth aged 15 to 24 years and people living in urban areas overrepresented within the gaps. We also see that prevalence of male circumcision is high in Limpopo, with 52% of circumcised men reporting traditional circumcision. PrEP awareness in the province was low at 25.4%, and uptake was universally low across districts at 2.2%. However, willingness to take PrEP was fairly high at 58%. So with these highlights, we had a few actions for consideration. These are just highlights. There are other considerations that can be made from the data that was presented. There is need for long-term planning to care for individuals in an aging HIV epidemic. We also should consider heightened focus on campaigns such as U equals to U and other strategies to promote uptake and sustain use of ART, especially among adult men. We also need to consider to enhance prevention efforts that target groups disproportionately affected by the drivers of HIV infection, such as women and young people. We also need to continue to engage with traditional houses, leadership, and practitioners to ensure maximum health benefits among circumcised men, and enhance accurate public awareness and demand for effective HIV prevention measures, including HIV testing and counseling, condom use, and PrEP. Thank you. Acknowledgements. Yes, you can just do that. I thought it's HSRC. Oh, okay, sorry. I'm told that I need to do the acknowledgements. So with this, we would like to thank the people of Limpopo for opening their doors to the survey team and getting us to this stage.
Thank you, South Africa!
We also want to thank the consortium partners, and I don't know if I should thank ourselves. Thank CDC colleagues for being part of the survey, support technical, and all the other support that the CDC team provided to the SABSSM survey. The South African Medical Research Council, the National Institute for Communicable Diseases, University of Cape Town, National Department of Health, Limpopo Department of Health, South African National AIDS Council, provincial councils, UNICEF, and USAID. So we'd also want to thank PEPFAR, the President's Emergency Plan for AIDS Relief, through the CDC for providing funding for the SABSSM survey. And also thank all the contributors who provided technical support and all the work that they put in for the success of the SABSSM 6 survey. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Pelagia, and thank you to the colleagues that have shared the results with us. I mean, I've heard or seen quite a lot of reactions as some of the results were shared and also discussions within a small group. Some people had noted wrong numbers, so there were already arguments about, no, he said 2%, he said whatever. So what we are going to do now is also to share the presentation so that you also accurately share the numbers tomorrow when you reach your office. So the media colleagues that would want to ask pressing questions, I'm going to ask Azi to coordinate that. He will make sure that he lies with the right people that can just be able to respond to questions that need to be urgently addressed before you submit your report for the day. In terms of colleagues that are online, you are also, Yolandi is quite active and keeping you engaged as well, so she's going to also be asking some questions or ask you to engage in some of the conversations that we are going to have on the ground, as you have also listened through to the discussions, and we're going to also share the reports and the presentations later on. So if you look at our program, we should be having tea, but we should also be engaging with the results, right? So as I mentioned earlier on, we have an HSRC colleague or team member in your table that will then guide the discussions that we are supposed to have. Reflecting on the results, there are specific questions that are going to guide the discussion on each table. There's a lot to unpack. There's a lot of questions that you were also asking, so they will answer or also provide guidance on how we move forward. In terms of tea, we are also going to work while we drink tea, right? So while we engage, the table facilitators will also let you know if it's time to just go grab something and come back and speak to the question that your team is allocated, right? So we're just going to try and see if we are able to catch up with time, and then during lunch or so, that's when we'll be able to play the video as well. So I'm going to allow table facilitators, if your table is without an HSRC or CDC or SANEC member, will just make sure that they are available, but I'll allow table facilitators to take over, facilitate and guide the discussions. It should be about an hour, so be aware of the time as you engage on the issues that we have raised. And remember to choose a representative that would then just provide an indication of what are the issues that arose from the discussions that you had with your team. Thank you once again.
Two.
Will introduce himself and then take us through the questions that the question that they were dealing with. I requested that we summarize and complete, so I'm appealing to the groups. Can we agree now? We stop? Can we agree? Those online, we are commencing with feedback sessions from the groups, and we are starting now, and we will be starting with table number 9, and they will introduce themselves.
Thanks, Chair. Good afternoon, colleagues. Good afternoon, colleagues. How are you? Good. My name is Mashale Amukelani. I'm from Center for Positive Care. We are known as CPC. We are implementing sex work program in the Capricorn district. So I'll be presenting on behalf of Group 9. This is not a one-man contribution, but a collective effort. So our questions that we've been discussing about as a group were about successes and challenges reaching young women and women, boys, and other key populations. So throughout the years of implementation, for us, what has worked from what we have seen through the feedback from HSRC, what has worked for us as a success, we've been reaching same cohort of key populations. We've been employing the strategy of peer-led intervention, so peer-to-peer intervention. So we have been distributing or supplying PrEP to our key populations, and this has also stabilized the new cases of HIV positive. We have also noticed that a number of males are not participating in HTS or HIV testing services. However, through our discussion, we have also agreed that men are open for discussion about HIV topics. However, when it comes to testing, they do not turn out. So it's a very concerning issue. We have also realized or agreed that men also prefer services to be taken to them. It is one challenge that needs to be addressed as soon as possible. One of our group members have also emphasized about the issue of non-disclosure, particularly within the setting of traditional healing schools, where clients are not disclosing when they go through the process. So in terms of recommendations as Group 9, this one is close to my heart. Sustainability of the existing HIV programs is very key. We have noticed that programs that will be implementing HIV activities are funded in a very short period. So we believe that if these programs are sustained, there should be a continuity in terms of the relationship that has been built between service beneficiaries and service providers. So why are we also supporting this? We want the sustainability to build rapport between clients. If it happens that organizations that are currently existing are laid off, there should be continuity and proper introduction so that we continue with the services that the existing programs were providing. We also agree that conducting continuous support groups within the office space or within the program implementations that we are currently doing on the ground, it's also very key. Support groups should not be conducted once off, but should be continuous. We are also advocating for continuity of advocacy programs for young boys and girls to delay early sexual debuts. We have all seen that we have a very high number of young children participating in sexual activities. We also encourage the strengthening of relationship between partners and DOH so that services should be taken directly to service beneficiary regularly using mobile clinics. We also agreed that because the issue of clients undergoing traditional initiation schools are not disclosing, traditional healers should strengthen their relationship with local DOH facilitation. So we also advocate for collaboration amongst ourselves. Thank you. If there's anything I'm missing out, the team members can add. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah. So by virtue of hearing that sound, is that no addition? Okay, you have noted, ne? Now we are going to group 3.
Thank you so much. Good afternoon. My name is Lindwe Mutemane. I'm from Education Development Center. We were tasked to do question 3, which says what needs further strengthening in the province or district program. So we can start with the slides. Okay, I was trying to be fancy and it looks like I'm being let down. I was thinking of the online audience. Various age groups and the maturity level, as much as there's that high uptake, but these are the negatives that we've picked up, as well as the different contexts in which the youths find themselves. One of the other one is the misalignment of policies of Department of Health, Department of Social Development, and the Department of Education, which makes it difficult to reach this youth. And lastly, the programs are not always accessible, especially in deep rural areas, for youth living with disabilities, and also those that are missing from this public areas, such as those youth that are actually housebound and those ones that are non-documented. We're talking here in terms of you is equals to you, because once you miss that HIV positive youth, tracing them becomes difficult. And the last one, okay. The last one is how can social development, so I move too fast now, Ish. So I'm from Gauteng and there's a Gautrain. So everything here shares, and then it shares too much. So let's get the last slide quickly. Should I move? He's gonna move for me. Okay, I'm gonna read now while we're waiting. Sorry, my online audience. So in social development, they've got what we call the ROC Leadership Program, which is providing sensitization. I think it is slow communication. Okay. It's providing sensitization to traditional leaders around GBV. And social, HIV social and structural drivers. So that program has newly started and it still needs further rollout. So DSD cannot really confirm whether it's working at the present moment. Also, there's strong collaboration that is needed in terms of social development with DREAMS partners, particularly around issues of intensive economic strengthening. Also, there's a need to upscale evidence-based programs, sustainable, and speak to the real needs of the youth, which means profiling or situational analysis is needed for localized design and implementation. Also, there's a need for coordination and collaboration for partner initiatives, approaches which ensure reaching this target. We are reaching them, but the question is, are we reaching the correct audiences? And lastly, mapping of services available by all stakeholders. And I was told to present and they will answer questions. Thank you.
Hey, yeah, hear the sound. You got the sound and the laughter and the joy. So, Penny. The next volunteers. Good. Table 2.
Thank you, colleagues. So, table 2, we were tasked with answering question 2. What HIV messaging is critical to communicate and to whom? So, as usual, we had a conversation that was in depth, and we also ended up speaking about other things, but I'll focus on answering the question. So, with regards to messaging, we spoke about the... Oh, sorry. So with regards to messaging, we spoke about the need to focus on influential key persons within communities. So in terms of interventions, we need to target people who are influential within communities, such as traditional healers, and people who are, well, this was a very sensitive topic, but within relationships, the dynamics of relationships are very different from partner to partner. So messaging that is also centered around having key messages communicated to couples regarding how they should use condoms and when to use condoms within the relationships, understanding the importance or the purpose of having to use condoms. So the messaging should center around also targeting couples and understanding how they can use condoms. So we also need to ensure that we have a presence on all platforms, be it social media, Instagram, WhatsApp, X. We need to make sure that we are there because young people are on those platforms and they need to be reached because I can tell you right now that most young people are always on their phones. They are always checking what's happening on their statuses. They're always looking at what's happening within their communities. And when you check for your statuses, you can see that there are advertisements that people have there. So we can use those platforms to advertise or to communicate the messages that we're trying to reach out, that we're trying to send out to younger people. So, and then the environments that we also felt were key environments to share these messages were churches, schools, and homes. So churches being a place whereby we all go on a Sunday, and we also established that people go there to find healing, you know, and using that platform to encourage pastors to teach about health is also a great way. It's one of the points that was brought up on our tables in terms of messaging, to share messages at church that are actually speaking to the mandate that we're trying to push. Focusing on messaging that centers around myth eradication. So the myths that are currently present within communities, how can we send out messages that center on myth eradication within communities? So we know that there are a lot of myths that are currently present within communities, and so messaging that focuses on ensuring that certain myths do not continue within communities is something that we also felt was important. I'm not sure if I missed anything. So yeah, colleagues, if there's anything else we can add to that. Thank you.
Are you sure this group didn't show any emotions? Are you sure you are done? There were no, emotions in this group. Okay. Group 6.
All right, thank you. Good day, colleagues. My name is Emmanuel Malachi from Skukune East District, working at the HIV and AIDS Life Skills Program. So our group here, group number 6, was tasked with answering the question on the issue of what HIV messaging is critical to communicate and to whom. So basically, the previous group number 2, I'll be adding on what they said. So here, the first question was looking at the how can we empower young girls and young women? So we tried to broaden it, not only focusing on the young girls and women, but looking at the young people as a whole. So we looked at the issue of we looked at the issue of reaching adolescent young people because of the data that was shown here to promoting condom usage and the use of PrEP concurrently, because we realized that the more we inform them about the usage of PrEP, they neglect the usage of condom. Whereas condom, it helps young people in dealing or preventing STIs and teenage pregnancy. So if ever we can inform young people about the importance of using both PrEP and condoms concurrently, then we'll be preventing the issues of teenage pregnancy and STIs. And then further, we looked also at reaching young people at different places, such as especially for young men, whereby we can inform the traditional leaders and then reaching young males at the initiation schools, whereby the health professionals or the doctors, when they visit there, they can encourage and inform young males about the usage of condoms and PrEPs. And then we realized also that most health facilities, they are visited by females. So it means that the females can be reached there at the health facilities. And then we also looked at the issue of the partners that we have, that at a higher level partners, maybe they must be informed by the reality on the ground. The ground must inform the funds that are released by the partners on what needs they must be supported. And then further also on the issue of on the issue number B, which was focusing on the issue of the good role models in young groupings influence behavior. So here we realize that we are dealing with young people, a different kind of generation, whereby now they are more on social media platforms. It's not that generation of the past where they were playing mantloane, they were, you know, like on the streets doing this kind of activities, but now they are mostly on their cell phones. So if ever we can reach them there via social media, Facebook, TikTok, whereby these are young role models, the influencers which are there, they can bring about change in the minds of young people, which can influence the young minds positively, and then also promoting the positive messaging and empower youth's abilities and help in career guidance, so that the young people that we are dealing with, they are able to be focused in life. And then the last one, which was looking on the issue of implication for behavior change communication. We indicated that this may lead to individuals to become more independent and then reinforcing rather than developing intrinsic motivation. And then also this can help in terms of behavioral guidance and fostering resilience in the young people that we are dealing with. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Group 1.
Good day, colleagues. Ki Disegwa Gatobejane. I'm in the Department of Education, responsible for HIV/AIDS and life skill programs in Capricorn. Our first question will be, where do you and your children or community learn about HIV? In school or in clinics? The first answer to you would be that children learn about HIV in schools. They can also learn about HIV in clinics. But in schools, most of the time they learn it from life orientation and life skills. That is where we really have more of the challenges, because most of the teachers that are teaching life orientation and life skills are not mostly are not specialists in the subject. So that is where the challenge comes, and mostly are taught by those old teachers who do not really even want to talk about issues related to sex and sexuality. We also indicated that children with disabilities are usually excluded because most of them are out of school. And these children are mainly out of school because of family attitude due to lack of awareness and lack of knowledge. Families more interested in the disability grant than the well-being of the child. And we also indicated that teachers are not equipped to deal with multiple disabilities, or disability centers not properly equipped to deal with children with HIV, or also address abuse among disabled children in the schools. The second question was, what are the implications of a shifting pattern of HIV prevalence and the aging epidemic? The double peak, you look at 35 to 39 years, as well as the 50 to 54 years old, may be due to intergenerational sex, heightened prevention messaging among older age groups, peer education at all levels age groups, and HIV programming for teachers, especially the younger teachers that have just joined the team. There is an assumption that everyone is aware of benefits and how to correctly use condoms. More people still need peer education at all levels. So let's try and reach through technology and properly fund the CBOs to address grassroots challenges. And the last question would be, how do we address a decline in condom use in South Africa? We are indicating that there should be awareness campaigns at all levels. And then now we also indicate that also there should be peer educators who would be able to educate those ones that do not know how to use it. And also we can also be able to reach the community through technology and properly funded CBOs to address all the challenges that are available at grassroots. Thank you.
Yeah, those hands. And group 5 who's presenting. Okay. Hey, those hands from the group were strong.
Thank you. We are group 5. High five. Okay, can you project my presentation, please? I can't see it. Oh, it's not there. Okay, thank you so much. My name is Sauwe. Because we are group 5, accidentally we just answer all the questions in that 1 hour. The first question was, what are the lessons learned in the province in regard to the presentation or the report that we are receiving today? So we were supposed to look into the implications of shifting pattern of HIV prevalence and the aging epidemic. So we were saying, in fact, here we are looking in terms of what worked, in terms of looking in the report. We are saying interventions such as health educations amongst the group, the targeted group as per the feedback, it worked. And also the ART rollout, because I think even Prof indicated that the HIV then, it was the HIV then, but today is a different HIV because of the ART rollout. And the other thing that also worked is the CCMDT program, where our community members are able to access the ART and anytime, any place that they have been identified. So even if you are working very late or whatsoever, you are able to access your medication. And the PrEP rollout, and one can ask, why are you saying PrEP rollout? Because like as per the survey results, it was like 2017 to 2022. But within the developmental partners, the PrEP have been implemented within the key and priority population. Next slide, please. Oh, is here. Okay. And then the next question is, where do you and your children or community learn about HIV? We are saying our community are learning about HIV at school in terms of comprehensive sexuality education, and also at clinic level, community, social media, and churches. How do we address a decline in condom use in South Africa? We are still in question 1, for those who are not aware. So the question 1, point C, we are saying in terms of addressing the decline in condom use, we have to review the strategy in terms of condom distribution. Here we are saying, because in most cases we'll find that when we are organizing campaign, we just sit there and give people condoms. So we are saying in terms of the review, I think it will be good if like it's face-to-face and or like one-on-one in terms of condom distribution, so that it also open a platform to do education in terms of how to use the condom. And also the other area is also to find individual preferences, to say we must not sit here as academics and decide for the people on the ground to say they need pineapple condom, they need vanilla condom, they need female condom. We have to check their preferences and supply on preferences, and even in those areas when we do condom distribution. And also improve on monitoring on condom use, to emphasize on risk reduction messages. When we are doing condom distribution, we also have to package it and also make sure that we also educate our community on risk reduction messages, which will be like accompanied by the condom use and condom distribution. The other thing is also to strengthen capacity building, e.g. condom demonstration. My colleague was also giving an example that sometime the previous weeks, he went to an adult shop to buy a dildo. So he asked the lady in the shop to say, I'm buying. And then that lady with a confidence, she said, I can use condom. And then he asked him, hey, demonstrate for me how to use condom. And the lady just started with opening the condom and putting it on the doll. And she said, no, we are not doing it like that. There are steps. You have to check the expiry date, whatever. So that is why we are saying we will also have to change, capacitate people in terms of condom use. Question number 2. Question 2 was, what HIV messages is critical to communicate?
Can you do 4 because others have done 2?
Okay, thank you, sis. Pari yako 4. 4 wara question 4 akere. We have done everything. We can present for the whole, don't worry. Question 4 is saying successes and challenges in reaching youth, women, and other populations. And how do we influence changing patterns of prevalence amongst adolescent girls and young women? The first thing we are saying, we have to strengthen. Everybody knows that most of our programs are peer-led. So we are saying let's strengthen the peer-led programs through dialogues and other interventions activities. And also to regulate media. If like in this country, we can have a platform to regulate media, to limit access to bad influence content. Because sometimes our population or our community, they take the bad role models as good role models. So if we can regulate media, it will also be able to make sure that we reduce the fake news and other things. Next slide, please. How do we better coordinate efforts on health intervention strategies at local levels and in South Africa? We are saying we have to create platform for dialogues as we are already doing, strengthen civil society organizations from grassroots level until whatever level of intervention. And also synergy and collaborating health services. Before, when we started with the HIV-related prevention programs, we used to have interdepartmental programs where all the departments will come together and work together so that we also avoid duplication. But today, it looks like we are just doing it. Sometimes it's there, sometimes it's not there. So we are saying we also have to strengthen synergy and collaboration. And also equal distribution of funds and allocation of partners. In this case, we are saying some other districts are not supported by the available resources. So allocation of resources is not equal, and also distribution of funds is not equal. So as a province, to make sure that we reach our goal, we have to do equal distribution and also equal allocation as per the needs of that specific district. Also to have system integration, a unique identifier and tracking mechanisms in terms of service rendered. This is Mr. Mukwena and Sister Ndani to saying in terms of M&E specifically, because our sitting here, in every platform we are saying, we are doing well in terms of the first 95, but the person can come outside to say, if we are saying we are doing fine, how can we justify that? Because Saue can test more than 3 times within 3 months, and you are counting that person several times. And the second 90, we're saying we're having a challenge in retention to care. So you might find that I take my treatment here, but when I go to Appel Cross, I'm regarded as a new client, whereas I'm not a new client. I'm already in treatment. But if we can have a unique identifier, wherever you go, it goes with you. So it will be easy for us to make sure that the system is also updated. Okay, whatever. Okay. Number C is how is HIV testing and status, awareness, ART, and viral load suppression seen in your community? We are saying as a team, the HIV testing services and status awareness is received positively. And I think everybody knows. In terms of education, I think we are doing well, especially in terms of HTS. And a high number of HIV positive patients are not adhering to the treatment. That is the challenge. Everybody knows. I think it's more on second 90. And then viral load suppression is very low among patients. Everybody knows. It's every day's slogan that I think the first bullet is first 90, second 95, second bullet, second 95, third bullet, third 95. Oh, that is amen, and thank you so much.
Thank you so much. The remaining groups, ne? this is the instruction. Because all questions were covered, you just add, or yeah, you add looking at areas that they did not cover on the questions that you have addressed. Ne? Group 7. Just focus on areas that they did not mention in the question that you were tackling. Who is presenting?
Good afternoon, colleagues. So I'll just touch on what wasn't mentioned already. So the group here, what was discussed is the VMMC. And what was written is Limpopo is the only province which implements the in-house VMMC since 2019. And the province's MMC performance has shown an upward trend over the years. Limpopo's TMC services are regulated to prevent circumcision-related fatalities. The Provincial Initiation Coordination Committee, PICC, hosted by Coxstar, collaborate to advertise applications for permits to open initiation schools. Some initiation schools appoint the medical officers to do the cutting, and they are paid by the traditional leaders responsible. The Department of Health provides commodities for the initiation schools with permits to prevent infections. And the Department of Health allocates male nurses in the first 3 days of the opening of the initiation schools to supervise/observe the process to ensure that infection control measures are adhered to. And then finally, the initiation schools are supported at least twice to monitor and early identification of cases which may need further medical care in the healthcare facilities. So this is all to ensure that that circumcision is all done properly and in a way that doesn't cause any fatalities within the province. So that's what the Limpopo province has done so far regarding circumcision. Thank you.
Okay. I got it this side.
No, thanks. I'm A.B. Mhlanga from Office of the Premier under Transversal Employee Health and Wellness. We are dealing with question 4. A lot has been said about it, and much as the program facilitator says, we need to say the things that they did not say. We also prepared and took time. So we will deal with what we have to deal with, but then we'll be very short. When we started our engagement, we actually said on question 1, which says, how do we influence changing patterns of prevalence amongst adolescent girls and young women? We then said all these people who are in this house actually missed a link, because we started as the panicking group within the HIV and AIDS field. And then when things got normalized and then we started drinking ARTs, we relaxed and disappointed our children. Messaging then was all over, but today the messaging is a challenge. So the groups that have spoken before, we say we need to encroach the social media space, because our children are more on social media. Social media, we see Shane and Temu and Skomota popping up all the time, but we don't see any form of messaging that talks about the program that we deal with. So let's encroach that and utilize it appropriately. There's also a challenge, much as in the Department of Education, there is a life orientation program, but then it's limited. Our children are getting minimal information. Let's also encroach that particular space and utilize it. Because we as parents, we actually failed to provide the appropriate information for them to be aware about what is actually happening. And then this, even if it's there at tertiary institution, it's not overemphasized. We have to do that also. And then Another element, we are a 70% rural province. We've got over 50% of women, and then we've got approximately about 33% of youth, according to Stats SA. But there's this problem because we're a rural province, the cultural barriers that we find in the peripheral areas. Let's destigmatize that and then let our children start to actually access information in those particular areas. And then where possible, let us be visible in our messaging in those areas so that we can access them and empower them more. The openness element between parents and children is very critical when we deal with this particular matter. And then the open element again amongst partners, because us as partners, we also have a challenge of dealing with our own partners where we are. We share the same bed. We keep on talking about finances, not actualize things that deal with us to be able to actually survive. So those are some of the things that we need to engage on. And then COGTA, through the traditional councils, we also have to encourage them and ensure that we benefit from the program. And then on number 2, we wanted to address just 2 elements. We said the AIDS Council Secretariat, which is seated in the office of the Premier, should actually continue doing the collaborative work that is doing excellently so, because this then affords us an opportunity to say, ExCo members, as they come in, they are then mandated to also serve the province through provision of this particular program in their different departments. Very critical. Every MEC should be an advocate for this particular program. And then we also indicated that COGTA has got community healthcare workers. Let's utilize them for the appropriate cause at all times. That is another challenge that we actually have, because they'll go there and be social workers, identify poverty-stricken houses and fail to address issues related to this one. So let us make it actually a package. We have resources, but we work on silo mentalities, which is a challenge. And then another element that we noted, it's programs designed for men. Yes, the uptake is already indicated. When it comes to men uptake, we always have a challenge. And it's because with men, we were even saying in the table here, it's because we don't use contraceptives. We have a specific platform where you can actually find us. So come find us there. Mainstreaming, I've seen one department that does mainstreaming excellently so. The Department of Roads and Transport. They follow people up where they are. In the trucking businesses, you are aware they do that. In the taxi industry, we are aware they do that. LEADET should also lead in going to Shebins and affirm this particular program. Because Shebins are actually a problem for me and you, if we have to be frank and honest. And then on number 3, which is the last one, we also looked at how is HIV testing and status awareness, ART and viral suppression. Again, it goes back to what we've already indicated. The accessibility of men still remains a challenge. It's more women who are testing than us. Render those platforms on those areas that we've already spoken about, and then also do your mainstreaming. When you do that as a proactive program, and also ensure that you roll out the testing element itself. Another element is to encroach the traditional councils. Let them do positive messaging and allow all the active non-governmental organizations that we have to get the data that they want from our people on the ground as they test. I think that's where we ended up. Thanks a lot.
Thank you so much. Those were the addition. Did you hear? What you said was never said by others. That's the addition. Group 11. The biasness.
Thank you. I am Puruso Munyai, a public health medicine registrar from Limpopo Department of Health. I'm under my boss, Sis Kidiboni, who is here. So yeah, I wanted to impress her. That's why I had to climb the stage. Otherwise, we were tackling question 4, which is about successes and challenges in different groups. Well, first group with our youths, challenges is that HIV education is still not a priority in most of our gatherings, wherein it's all about, or most of the time, it's about politics than HIV. So maybe introducing a concept of HIV in most of our young gatherings can go a long way. Another one is stigma, which remains a barrier to care. And then the other one in this group is that late introduction of preventative measures. Most times we find that young girls as early as 10 years, they are pregnant, only to get education. You find the 10-year-old that is pregnant, which means that girl started having sex way before that age. So introducing sex education at early stage, as early as 6 years, can go a long way. And then, yes, crash to say. Successes in terms of that, successes in this group is that we've got a lot of youth programs. We've got a lot of youth programs such as your YOLO, your Love Life, your Dreams, your She Conquers, and all those. And all these programs are meant for HIV testing, condom education. They provide HIV and STIs education. So we're quite doing well in that form. And then we also have LO of matches is limited, but it is a success in terms of educating our young people. And then in terms of the women group, challenges are that women are still unable to initiate and negotiate for condom use. So we need to enlarge our empowerment, women empowerment programs for them to be able to engage, to initiate and consent on condom use. Also, we've got a huge barriers in our women. So still women empowerment is needed in that angle. Also, our elderly women, when they go to the hospital, we often want chronic medication. We often want something else besides HIV. Either your arthritis, your hypertension, your diabetes, and all those. But we often do not engage them on HIV. And most of them, they are quite still very active, even though they are in that age. But in terms of successes, we've got a lot of success. Other one is our PMTC program, which encourages women to test and prevent their unborn children from being infected with HIV. Also, the introduction of female condoms, although there's still lack of use, uptake and use, but still that's a success. Other population, such as our men, our LGBTQ group, and our sex workers. So challenges that there's still a big issue of stigma there. So we need to try and address that. And then men, where we know that they are the ones that have a lot of multiple partners. So it's still a challenge. And then we've got men and that are so resistant, that are so resistant to visiting our health facilities with so many residents. So other things such will also go a long way. In terms of successes in this group, we also have a lot of programs that have been initiated, such as Health for Men, our MENA campaigns, all these trying to advocate for men to take a lead for their health. We also have a tracking wellness program where we're in the DSD, Department of Social Department and the Health, they do the outreaches to where the long distance track rests. They go there and roll out PrEP, they roll out ARTs. So such, it's a success. So lastly, in terms of recommendations, is that at least establishing of what AIDS committee, committees will improve health awareness campaigns, strengthening of multi-sectorial integration with our traditional and religious leaders will also go a long way. Reducing time spent at our health facilities via appointment of reminders and electronic field will also go a long way. And I thank you.
Thank you so much. Your boss is impressed. So in terms of performance appraisal, we give you 5. Okay. We are going to take the last group. Don't forget the instruction.
Good afternoon. My name is Ntangani Zenin Chauba, clinical specialist from Host Pay Training Trust, Tlokomela, and I'll be representing Table 8. We were tackling question 3. The first question was, what has been the results of voluntary medical male circumcision program? VMMC has had a positive impact on men and their sexual partners because men who are not circumcised are more infectious than men who are circumcised. We have also noted on the 87.7% on Limpopo that some of the reasons why we are not reaching 100% is because of the following reasons. Can you hear me? Okay. There is no enough awareness campaigns in the communities about male circumcisions, and also in medical circumcisions there is lack of human resources because of the high demands of circumcisions and lack of personnel to offer these services. Also, in traditional circumcisions, there is overcharging on the fees. The traditional healers are charging way too much money for these boys to get circumcised at traditional in the rural areas. Hence, most of the boys are not getting circumcised in the rural areas. And so we have recommended that we need to improve on awareness of VMMC to the communities. We also have to introduce these circumcisions in correctional facilities. We also have to extend to other districts for more awareness. Every initiation school must have a male nurse to go and oversee the process and ensure that it is not bogus and to prevent infections, of which I think they are doing already. We can also have facilities around the rural areas or these communities where they are offering VMMCs, and these facilities should meet the standards for performing such activities. The second question, have youth HIV prevention campaigns been successful at reaching its targets audience? We came to a conclusion that there is inadequate youth prevention campaigns at reaching its targets because of lack of sensitization to health workers. Health workers, mostly being our nurses in the rural areas or in these communities. Most of these nurses, as nurses, I'm also a nurse. Yeah? Most of us nurses, we are judgmental to the young people. So when a young person, let's say a 12-year-old, comes to the clinic asking for PrEP, for instance, we judge these people to say, you are this age and you are already asking for such things. So that is one of the barriers that is preventing our youth from accessing PrEP. Young males are having sex with older women in exchange of money, alcohol, and drugs, mostly in our communities. We have also noted or rather seen that in our rural areas, most of these women, older women, most of them who are widowed, sorry if there's anyone who's widowed. Yeah, people without partners, older women without partners actually, they buy this young boys alcohol, drugs, and sometimes there's this other one, they call it impesu. They buy it for these young boys. They don't even want to use protection because, but it's nicer without the protection. And so it spreads the HIV. Yeah. Okay, and so we have come with the recommendation that we must offer a small support groups such as prep demand creations to these young adults, especially in shippings, taverns, and the motels. We should also bring services to the community rather than them coming to the facilities. And then we must also have sexual and reproductive health education, especially in the primary schools and on the young adults, yes. So, C, how can social development and skills building program assist in strengthening these programs? Where is it? Okay. Leader to fund cooperatives for youth or communities as opposed to giving them 350 grant. More bursaries, learnerships, and internships being established to support our communities. More entertainment facilities to be built to expose our communities to their talents and skills. Municipalities should also have studios in different areas because most of the youth are talented but do not have the resources to further their talents. Strengthening of safe space and youth zone services. Thank you.
Yeah, that is youth empowerment in action. So I thought you'll just go to the front and just take over. Okay, but thank you so much. So we are done with the feedbacks, and we all had each group the engagement from each group, and if you were taking notes of what the participants are saying, is that we all have a responsibility going back to our various institutions and communities. Now, HSRC has given us data, the findings of the survey, and we have engaged on the findings, and we have identified our strengths and weaknesses based on the gaps that they have highlighted. And we even made recommendations to say, these are the issues that we need to strengthen and introduce if they were never introduced, to ensure that we improve on provision of HIV, TB, and STI programs. So if one summarizes on what has been said here, is that it is clear that we need to strengthen collaboration. Programs are being implemented, but there is no synergy. And all these programs that are implemented in the community, the target group is the same. But then the findings here tells us a different story. Meaning that from the coordination point, the AIDS councils, because they are coordinating the multi-sectoral response, it will be critical that through the national strategic plan as we are implementing, we strengthen what we've been talking about in this space. So we have to ensure that as a province, looking at the 0 to 14, 15 to 24, we are intentional in terms of ensuring that the programs that are targeting this age group reaches the target. We have spoken about the key drivers and men's sector, youth sector, PLHIV sector, traditional health practitioners, traditional leaders. I'm sure all the civil society sectors, they've seen themselves and what they need to do. Because all of us need to be in the communities and to do something. So if we are to correct this, it is clear that this national strategic plan is relevant because it says community-led, people-centered plan. It's a people's plan. So if we want that people's plan to achieve, is to do everything that you just said. And unfortunately, my team from the AIDS Council and from the Office of the Premier Transversal, we have to collaborate. There's no way we can continue working in silos. We have to end this and end it now. Because 2030 is just around the corner. And you well said, Mr. Mhlanga, you said there was this high messaging in the 1990s, and then we get to the 2000s because we are on treatment, then everything just goes down. And COVID, we have learned a lot from COVID to say correct messaging assists in dealing with any epidemics. And then if you take the lessons from COVID and the lessons prior COVID and use those lessons, we can reach the 2030 vision of ending AIDS, but it calls all of us. And then from what has been said here, issues of resources, we have realized that, in fact, resources is not necessarily an issue. The issue is collaboration and planning together and implementing together, because there are partners, there are government departments, there are people to implement this peer-led organization and communities and programs. So all of us, we are empowered to do something in our community. We are just not well coordinated, so we need to improve on that. And if we do that, definitely, we will be able to change the picture. So the commitment we are making to HSRC, I'm talking low because I hope this whole team will support us in doing that, is that those gaps come the next SABSSM will have improved as a province. It's a commitment by faith. Will have improved. So you come next time, you will see the bar going up. Again, it's done. So thank you so much for participating, and I'm requesting that those who typed their responses, please, will need that. If you can take them to at the back, so that they are part of the package which they will share with us. We need those responses. If you are writing on a paper, give it there, it's fine, we'll type it. Because why it's very critical for us is for us to use the lessons learned here to improve on implementation. So please, let's get those responses and ensure that we are improving as a province. So from me, you won't see me again. Enjoy seeing me now, because I'm handing back to HSRC. Over to you, Doc.
Okay, thank you so much, Connie. Collaborate. So that is fine. So people were talking about impressing their bosses and standing in front and so forth. So now I'm also impressing my boss. I'm not going to talk, I'm going to allow him to talk on behalf of the HSRC for my key performance, of course. I also want to get nice scores.
Okay, thank you, colleagues. I thought maybe I should come this side because I'm not that tall, so it's better if I stand up here, then I can be seen. Colleagues, yeah, thank you so much. We've now come to the point whereby we have to bid farewell to each and every one of us. Colleagues, this has been a wonderful day today. A great day for us as people working in the area of HIV/AIDS research, and also, you know, keeping on the fires burning to deal with the HIV/AIDS epidemic. I just want to really thank you so much, colleagues, for being here, being part of this engagement. This is just the beginning, not the end of it. It's just the beginning. And a lot should be happening. We should be going out there and speaking to communities on a daily basis. They speak about HIV and AIDS. It may look like, given the lack of information out there, it may seem as if we no longer have a problem of HIV and AIDS. Given the lack of communication, where we hardly, actually not even hardly, I haven't seen any billboard out in the community speaking about HIV and AIDS, no messaging, nothing. So this is the place where we should go out and speak to communities. Colleagues, I just want to ask you to give yourselves a big round of applause just for being here today. Colleagues, the data that HSRC collects, it's your data. Data does not belong to HSRC. This is your data. This is the data that is accessible to everyone who wants to use the data. So the data is curated. It's available on the HSRC website. Maybe not the 2022 survey as yet, but there is work going on to curate that data. But all the previous data sets, even from other studies that HSRC is doing, we do many other studies in different areas of research. That data is curated. It's available on a website for you to download, exploit, do whatever analysis that you still need. So I always encourage colleagues to go to HSRC website, download this data, make use of it. Let us inform our communities and our fellows about the data that we have. You know, knowledge is power. Colleagues, I really want to thank each and every one of you for being here today, from our different partners, different organizations, different departments. I really thank you for being here today. And colleagues that have joined us online, I really want to thank them sincerely for being with us since this morning, colleagues. So your participation was really valuable. This would not have been an event that came out to be like this if it wasn't because of your participation, colleagues. For that, I really thank you, colleagues. Colleagues, we also want to just express our special appreciation and thanks to colleagues from the Premier's office who have been part of our planning. We've been engaging with them since the beginning of planning of this work, and specifically the colleagues from the Provincial AIDS Council who have been also part of this work. Even before we started implementing the survey, they have been with us since then, especially to our colleague, Connie, for being here. Really appreciate your presence and being with us here today and working with us, and also our colleague, Dudu Mashego, for being with us here. Your support has been really, really great. So, colleagues, we hope this is the beginning of many engagements between HSRC and the province. And lastly, colleagues, also want to thank the two program directors who have done a fantastic work. Let's give them a big round of applause. So, colleagues, on that note, we thank you very much. The meeting is officially closed. Thank you.